It's no secret that the electric vehicle market has been on a wild ride in recent years. Governments worldwide, including the US, have been pushing hard to adopt EVs, with ambitious plans to phase out gas-guzzling cars and usher in a new era of clean, green transportation. But hold your horses, despite all the hype and hoopla, the EV boom seems like it might be running out of juice. Sales have hit a speed bump, and market growth is slowing down faster than a Tesla with a dead battery. So what's the deal? Why are Americans starting to lose faith in the electric dream? Buckle up, because we're about to dive into 5 reasons why the future of EVs might not be as bright as we once thought. Let's kick things off with the biggest buzzkill of them all: range anxiety. Sure, EVs have come a long way in recent years, but let's face it, they still can't hold a candle to good old-fashioned gas cars when it comes to going the distance. Most EVs on the market today can barely make it 200 to 300 miles on a single charge, and that's if you're lucky. Forget about those long road trips or spontaneous weekend getaways, unless you enjoy spending more time at charging stations than at your destination. Speaking of charging stations, have you tried finding one lately? It's like playing hide and seek, except nobody's laughing. The charging infrastructure in the US is still pretty patchy, with many areas having more tumbleweeds than charging points. And even when you find a public charger, there's no guarantee it'll work. Broken, unreliable, or just plain finicky. It's like Russian roulette, but with your car's battery life on the line. Even if you find a working charger, get ready to settle in for the long haul. Depending on the type of charger and size of your battery, charging an EV can take anywhere from 30 minutes to several hours. Compare that to the 5 minutes it takes to fill up a gas tank, and you'll understand why many Americans hesitate to make the switch. Now imagine you're one of the millions of apartment dwellers in the US. Charging an EV at home? Yeah, good luck with that. Most apartment buildings don't have dedicated charging stations, and running an extension cord from your 5th floor window is a surefire way to get on your landlord's naughty list. Even if you're lucky enough to have a garage or driveway, installing a home charger can be costly and complicated. All these factors combined, limited range, scarce and unreliable public chargers, long charging times, and the challenges of home charging are enough to give anyone a severe case of range anxiety. It's no wonder many Americans are weighing the pros and cons of EVs before jumping on the bandwagon, especially for long trips or everyday convenience. Sure, saving the planet is great, but have you seen the price tags on these EVs? They're enough to make your wallet run and hide. The average price of an electric vehicle in the US is around $50,000 to $60,000. A far cry from the more modest 30 to 40 grand you'd pay for a decent gas-powered car. And that's just the average. If you want a Tesla or one of those fancy European models, you'd better be ready to shell out some serious dough. But what about those affordable EV options? Well, that's the thing. There aren't many. Most of the EVs on the market today are luxury models with only a handful of options under $30,000. And even those cheaper models often come with compromises, like shorter ranges or less powerful batteries. So, unless you're willing to take out a second mortgage or sell a kidney on the black market, an EV might not be the most practical choice for the average American family. And even if you scrape together the cash for an EV, you better be prepared to pay through the nose for insurance. Due to the higher price tags and specialized parts, insuring an electric vehicle can cost 20 to 30% more than insuring a comparable gas-powered car. And if you ever need to file a claim, get ready for some serious sticker shock. Repairing or replacing those high-tech batteries and other components can cost a small fortune, which means higher premiums for you. All these factors combined, the high upfront costs, the lack of affordable options, and the skyrocketing insurance rates, make EVs a tough sell for many mainstream buyers. Sure, you might save money on gas in the long run, but that's little consolation when you're staring down a monthly car payment that's bigger than your rent. It's no surprise that many Americans are sticking with their trusty gas guzzlers until the price of EVs comes down to earth. After all, it's hard to justify spending a small fortune on a car that might not even make it to grandma's house on a single charge. Alright, so we've covered the range issues and the sticker shock, but what about the technology itself? Sure, EVs are supposed to be the future of transportation, but are they really up to snuff? Let's start with the basics. EVs are often touted as being more advanced than their gas-powered counterparts, but when you really look under the hood, so to speak, you might be surprised at what you find. Electric motors are pretty nifty, and the instant torque is a nice party trick, but EVs still have a long way to go when it comes to overall performance and convenience. Take range, for example. While some high-end models can now go 300 to 400 miles on a single charge, that's still a far cry from the 500 to 600 miles you can get from a full gas tank. And let's not forget about charging time. Even with the fastest chargers available, you're still looking at a minimum of 30 to 60 minutes to get back on the road. Compare that to the 5 minutes it takes to fill up at the pump, and you can see why many Americans are hesitant to make the switch. But it's not just about range and charging time. When it comes to overall convenience and practicality, EVs still have much catching up to do. Want to take a road trip? Better plan your route around charging stations. Need to haul a trailer or carry a heavy load? Good luck finding an EV that can handle that kind of grunt work. And then there's the question of future-proofing. With technology advancing at breakneck speed, many consumers are understandably wary of investing in an EV that might be obsolete in just a few years. After all, nobody wants to drop 50 grand on a car that will be outclassed by next year's model. Unfortunately, there aren't many EVs on the market right now that can meet the average consumer's expectations for range, performance, and convenience. And until there are, many Americans are going to stick with what they know, even if it means paying a little extra at the pump. It's a classic case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Until EVs can offer the same level of performance and practicality as gas-powered cars without the hefty price tag and technological uncertainty, many consumers are going to be hesitant to make the leap. And who can blame them? Now let's talk about something that's near and dear to every car owner's heart: resale value. Because, let's face it, nobody wants to buy a car that's going to be worth less than a used toaster in a few years. Unfortunately, when it comes to EVs, the news isn't great. According to recent studies, electric vehicles tend to depreciate faster than their gas-powered counterparts, in some cases by as much as 50 to 60% over the first 5 years of ownership. That's a pretty steep drop, especially when you consider that the average gas-powered car only loses around 30 to 40% of its value over the same period. So what's behind this alarming trend? Well, there are a few factors at play. First and foremost, there's the issue of battery degradation. As EVs age, their batteries tend to lose capacity and range, which can be a major turnoff for potential buyers. After all, nobody wants to pay top dollar for a car that can barely make it to the grocery store and back. Then there's the question of technology obsolescence. With new and improved EVs hitting the market every year, older models can start to look pretty dated pretty quickly. And when you're trying to sell a used EV, that can be a tough pill to swallow. But perhaps the biggest challenge facing the used EV market is simply the lack of demand. Because EVs are still a relatively new and niche product, there just aren't as many buyers out there looking for a pre-owned model. And when you're trying to sell a car that nobody wants, you better be prepared to take a hit on the price. All of these factors combined, battery degradation, technology obsolescence, and limited demand, can make resale value a major concern for EV owners. Nobody wants to invest tens of thousands of dollars in a car that's going to be worth peanuts in a few years. And for many consumers, that's reason enough to stick with a tried-and-true gas-powered vehicle. Sure, you might not be saving the planet, but at least you can count on getting a decent return on your investment when it's time to sell. So, if you're thinking about buying an EV, just be sure to factor in the potential resale value, or lack thereof, before you sign on the dotted line. Otherwise, you might find yourself stuck with a car that's worth less than the charging cable you plug it in with. As much as we all want to believe that electric cars are the perfect, trouble-free solution to all our transportation woes, the reality is a bit more complicated. You might be thinking EVs were supposed to be more advanced than gas cars. And you're right, they are. But with all that fancy technology comes a whole new set of problems. From touchscreens that freeze up at the worst possible moment to over-the-air updates that break your car's computer, EVs are prone to software issues that can leave you stranded on the side of the road. And when that happens, good luck finding a mechanic who can fix it. But that's not the only reliability issue plaguing EVs. There's also the question of battery failures. Now, I know that most EV batteries are designed to last for hundreds of thousands of miles, but the reality is that they don't always live up to that promise. When a battery does fail, it can be a nightmare to replace. Not only are EV batteries incredibly expensive, tens of thousands of dollars in some cases, but they're also highly specialized components that require trained professionals to install and maintain. This brings us to the next problem: repair costs. Because EVs are still a relatively new and niche product, there simply aren't as many mechanics out there who know how to work on them. And when you do find someone who can fix your car, you'd better be prepared to pay through the nose for their expertise. But it's not just the cost that's a concern. There's also the question of safety. Because EVs run on high-voltage batteries, repairing them can be a risky proposition if you don't know what you're doing. One wrong move and you could be in for a nasty shock, literally. All of these factors combined, software glitches, battery failures, high repair costs, and safety concerns, can make reliability a major worry for potential EV owners. After all, nobody wants to spend a fortune on a car that's going to spend more time in the shop than on the road. And when you consider that most Americans rely on their cars for daily transportation, the idea of owning an EV that might leave you stranded at any moment can be a tough pill to swallow. So if you're thinking about making the switch to electric, just be sure to do your research and choose a model with a proven track record of reliability. Otherwise, you might find yourself wishing you'd stuck with good old-fashioned gasoline. From the high prices and limited range to the lack of charging infrastructure and reliability concerns, there are plenty of reasons why many Americans are skeptical about making the switch to electric. But here's the thing. If you want to have any hope of meeting our climate goals and reducing our dependence on fossil fuels, we can't afford to give up on EVs just yet. We need to keep pushing for improvements in EV technology, from longer-lasting batteries to faster charging times. and more affordable price points. So, what do you think? Are you ready to switch to electric, or are you still on the fence? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this one.